Hi, guys. Today we will start with the story The Life of a Rich Medieval Senator and more. Birth and childhood of the future senator in Middle Rome. In the heart of Middle Rome, a city where grandeur and tradition were intertwined with the daily lives of its people, a boy was born who was destined to become a senator, one of the most influential figures of his time. His family belonged to the Roman patriciate, the noble class that had shaped the city's politics and fate for centuries. From birth, the boy was surrounded not only by care and attention, but also by a clearly defined role. He was to continue the lineage and preserve and enhance the glory of his ancestors. The house where he was born was large and wealthy, a villa with spacious halls, decorated with mosaics and frescoes, surrounded by gardens with exotic plants. His parents, his father, an influential senator known for his wisdom and determination, and his mother, a member of an ancient patrician family, understood the immense importance of raising their future heir. From his earliest days, their son was given the opportunity to immerse himself in the culture and knowledge that formed the foundation of the Roman elite, learning Latin and Greek, becoming acquainted with the history of Rome, philosophy, and the art of public speaking. The childhood of the future senator took place in an atmosphere of strict rules and high expectations. Servants and tutors not only cared for his health and manners, but also introduced him to the world of political intrigues and family traditions. At an early age, he observed his father's conversations with other senators, learning the importance of diplomacy, the skill of listening and negotiation. From the very beginning, his life was closely connected to the fate of the city and the entire Roman state, and each day brought him closer to the role in which he was to become one of the pillars of power. Education and first lessons in power. From early childhood, the future senator was immersed in education. For in Rome, knowledge and skill were as important as noble birth. His education was carefully organized by his parents and mentors, who saw in him a future leader of the city. Unlike ordinary citizens, he had access to the best teachers, studying a wide range of subjects, from rhetoric and philosophy to history and law. The study of Latin was conducted with particular care, as it was the language of all official and political correspondence in Rome. The early lessons included not only knowledge, but also an understanding of ethics and morality, without which it was impossible to build authority in society. He was taught respect for traditions, but also to recognize the need for change and development. Great philosophers and orators of the past became his models: Cicero, Seneca, Socrates. Their works and speeches were studied not just for information, but as a guide to action and inspiration. Special attention was given to the art of public speaking, the ability to persuade crowds, conduct debates, and defend one's point of view. His mentors taught him not just to speak beautifully, but to sense the mood of his audience, understand subtle nuances of speech, and use them to achieve his goals. These skills later allowed him to become a master negotiator and influential politician. An important part of his upbringing was also familiarization with the structure of the Roman state, the Senate, the popular assemblies, the magistracies. He observed sessions, studied procedures and rules, and understood that power required not only strength and wealth, but also knowledge of laws and the ability to apply them. In his young mind, the understanding grew that being a senator meant not just holding a title, but bearing responsibility for the fate of many. Besides education, he took his first steps in public life, participating in religious ceremonies, visiting forums, and attending public assemblies. There, he absorbed the atmosphere of power, learning how to conduct himself among equals and seniors in rank. These early lessons received in youth laid the foundation for future political success and secured him the support of influential families. Entering political life and first trials. The path to the Senate in Rome was never simple or swift, especially for a young man just beginning his career. After many years of diligent study and preparation, it was time to take the first steps into real politics, a world where ambitions clash with intrigues and personal qualities are constantly tested. His journey began with lower offices, which traditionally served as a school for future senators. The first official step was the position of quaestor, one of the junior magistrates responsible for financial affairs and oversight of the state treasury in the provinces or the city. This was no easy test. Besides knowledge of numbers and laws, it required the ability to navigate between the interests of various groups, cope with pressure, and demonstrate honesty amid temptations and corruption. The young senator quickly realized that power was not only honor, but a heavy responsibility on which the fate of many depended. Entering Roman political life, he faced the necessity of creating and maintaining connections, alliances that became the foundation of political strength. In the world of senators and magistrates, relationships were built on mutual favors, promises, and sometimes hidden intrigues. He learned to read people, distinguish sincerity from deceit, make balanced decisions, and respond swiftly to changing circumstances. A crucial part of his development was working with the public, oratorical speeches at forums, participation in religious ceremonies, and public assemblies. There, he honed his persuasion skills, shaping the image of a worthy and just politician who cared for the welfare of the people and the city. Each speech was carefully prepared, for even the slightest mistake could cost trust and support. During this period, he also faced his first serious trials: rivalry with other young politicians, attempts to undermine his reputation, struggles for influence in the Senate and on the city streets. These trials were harsh, but they tempered his character, making him more determined and wise. He realized that success in politics required not only knowledge and eloquence, but also resilience, patience, and the ability to build long-term strategies. The early years of political life became a time of practical learning, studying the mechanisms of power, understanding political games, and preparing for higher offices. His ambitions grew, along with the responsibility for the future of Rome and his family. He understood that to become a true senator, one must not only know how to govern, but also be a role model for others, a guardian of tradition, and an innovator at the same time. Consolidation of power and expansion of influence. With the acquisition of his first offices and political experience, the young senator realized that knowledge and charisma alone were not enough to reach the heights of power. Power in Middle Rome was a complex web of personal relationships, obligations, and mutual benefits. Gradually, he began to build his own political network, which became the foundation of his future might. One of the most important tools in this process was family and marital alliances. He married a woman from an influential family whose connections and resources opened new opportunities. This union was not a simple matter of the heart. It was a carefully planned political move aimed at strengthening the positions of both families. Together with his wife, he began to control significant territories, providing economic strength and political support. During this period, the senator also increased his influence through participation in religious and public events. Rome was a city where religion and politics were inseparable, and skillful use of religious rituals strengthened reputation and authority. He became a patron of temples and cults, financed festivals and sacrifices, which not only demonstrated his generosity, but also reinforced ties with the priesthood and the people. His political career developed amid constant challenges, rivalries with other senators, struggles for council seats, maneuvers at court. Yet, thanks to his negotiation skills and ability to balance interests, he achieved success and raised his status. He was entrusted with important commissions related to city governance and resource distribution. Equally important was his ability to manage his estates and economy. He carefully controlled tax collection, agricultural development, and crafts on his lands, ensuring a steady income and independence from political fluctuations. Infrastructure development, building roads, aqueducts, and public buildings, not only improved the lives of his subjects, but also strengthened his reputation as a wise and caring ruler. Over time, his influence extended far beyond his native city. He established connections with influential figures in neighboring regions, participated in major state matters, and even advised the emperor himself. His name became synonymous with strength, wisdom, and loyalty to traditions, and the figure of the senator was seen as a guarantee of stability and order. But with growing power came growing dangers. The senator understood that there was no place for weakness or mistakes in political games. He guarded his reputation carefully, chose allies and opponents with caution, and was always ready to fight for his position. His life became a constant work on himself, relationships, and strategies, without which it was impossible to stay on top. The senator and his role in the social life of the city. Over time, the young politician who had passed his early trials and strengthened his position became not just an influential figure in the Senate, but a true leader of his community. In Middle Rome, the role of a senator extended far beyond simple legislative and administrative duties. He was the link between the government and the people, a guardian of traditions, and a guide for the city's development. One of the senator's main tasks was ensuring social stability and order. From time to time, conflicts arose in the city, between patricians and plebeians, between different families and interests. The senator acted as an arbiter, seeking compromises to prevent outbreaks of violence. To do this, he used not only his official powers, but also his personal influence and extensive connections across various social layers, from priests and merchants to soldiers and artisans. His role as a patron of various public projects was particularly important. He financed the construction of public buildings such as baths, amphitheaters, and temples that served as meeting places and venues for celebrations for the inhabitants. These initiatives strengthened his popularity and created a sense of unity and well-being. Supporting cultural events, theatrical performances, poetry contests, and religious festivals was also part of his responsibilities. Furthermore, the senator actively participated in the city's religious life. In Rome, religion and politics were closely intertwined, and the senator's influence often manifested through his membership in priestly colleges, patronage of temples, and participation in ceremonies. These actions not only reinforced his authority, but also helped maintain the moral spirit of the population, which was crucial in difficult times. A key part of his work was caring for the citizens' needs, organizing aid for the poor, supporting veterans and families of fallen warriors. These measures fulfilled not only a social function, but also strengthened the people's loyalty, creating a solid foundation for long-term stability. His activity in social life was continuous and multifaceted. The senator understood that political power was not only about managing and making decisions, but also about maintaining trust and respect within society. His success depended on how close and useful he could be to his people, while remaining faithful to Roman traditions and laws. During these years, he became a true symbol of stability and order, a person who could be relied upon in any situation. His name was mentioned with respect not only in the Senate, but also on the city's streets, in the homes of ordinary citizens, and in temples. Such a reputation was the result of many years of hard work, wisdom, and the ability to combine political firmness with care for the people. Relations with the emperor and the Senate. In the political life of Middle Rome, the role of a senator was multifaceted, requiring not only the ability to manage local affairs, but also a delicate balance between influence in the Senate and relations with the emperor. During this period, the young senator gradually rose to a higher level of power, demanding caution, diplomacy, and strategic thinking. The emperor in Rome held immense power, but the Senate remained the most important body of state authority, controlling laws, finances, and many administrative matters. The senator understood that his success depended on his ability to navigate between the ambitions of the emperor and the interests of his Senate colleagues, maintaining stability and avoiding conflicts that could destroy the political system. He became an active participant in Senate sessions, where the most important state matters were discussed, from resource allocation to foreign policy and laws regulating citizens' lives. In these discussions, he demonstrated deep knowledge, analytical mind, and the ability to find compromises. His opinion gained weight not only because of his personal charisma, but also because of the respect he earned through hard work and solving complex issues. Relations with the emperor were built on mutual respect and understanding of each other's roles. The senator regularly presented reports, participated in important councils, and helped shape policies that corresponded to the interests of the state and society. He was not just a subordinate, but an advisor whose opinion was considered in the highest circles of power. However, such proximity to the emperor required constant vigilance. Power in Rome was surrounded by intrigues and struggles for influence, and even a minor mistake could lead to a fall from the heights. The senator carefully chose moments to express his position, avoided open confrontation, and always maintained flexibility, allowing him to adapt to changes. Besides political work, he maintained connections with other influential senators, creating coalitions and alliances that strengthened his position. These connections were based on trust, mutual benefit, and shared goals. Joint projects and initiatives strengthened not only his reputation, but also the influence of the entire group. Thus, during this period, his life became a balance between ambition and caution, action and reflection, power and responsibility. He gradually became one of the key politicians of Middle Rome, whose influence was felt both locally and on the imperial level. Provincial governance and expansion of administrative experience. Having become one of the influential senators, he was given the opportunity to participate in provincial governance, a vital part of the Roman Empire, on which both economic prosperity and political stability depended. Provinces were vast territories with diverse populations, cultures, and resources, and their effective administration required not only knowledge of laws and traditions, but also a deep understanding of local particularities. His appointment as proconsul or prefect of a province marked a new stage in his career. This position granted vast powers, from tax collection to maintaining order and justice. For him, this was a serious test, as he had to maintain a balance between firmness and fairness, while managing people whose views on life and power often differed greatly from Roman norms. He actively worked on organizing the administrative structure, strengthening control over tax collection, improving the supply system for the army and civil institutions, and overseeing the construction of roads and public buildings. Understanding that the prosperity of the province was directly linked to the trust and support of the local population, he tried to respect local customs and traditions, supported cultural initiatives and religious rites, which helped reduce tensions and prevent uprisings. A vital part of his work was fighting corruption and abuses among officials and tax collectors. He introduced strict audits and monitored the expenditure of funds, which was not always welcomed by influential figures accustomed to privileges. But thanks to these measures, he earned a reputation as an honest and effective ruler, which increased his authority and strengthened his position in Rome. The administrative experience gained in the provinces significantly broadened his understanding of the empire's structure and the complexities of governing diverse territories. He learned to make decisions under limited resources and instability, to consider the interests of various groups, and to build long-term development plans. This prepared him for even higher offices and expanded his circle of influence. The period of provincial service also gave him the opportunity to establish connections with the local aristocracy and military commanders, which proved crucial for strengthening his political base. Thanks to these contacts, he gained access to new resources and support, playing a significant role in future political battles in Rome. Overall, provincial governance became a key stage in the senator's life, a time of practical application of knowledge, expansion of power, and preparation for the peaks of the state hierarchy. Military service and strengthening influence Through the army, military service in Middle Rome was an integral part of the political career of any ambitious senator. It not only demonstrated personal bravery and loyalty to the state, but also opened new opportunities to expand power and influence. Understanding this, the senator sought to make the most of his experience and connections gained through military service. His participation in military campaigns began with commanding small detachments on the empire's borders, where he faced raids by barbarian tribes and provincial uprisings. Here, not only combat skills, but also strategic thinking and the ability to make quick decisions in difficult circumstances were revealed. The ability to manage people, maintain discipline, and motivate soldiers became an important skill later applied in political activity. Gradually, the senator obtained higher military positions, command of legions, and organization of large-scale operations. In these campaigns, he proved to be a talented commander, able to combine force with diplomacy, effectively use resources, and maintain communication with central authority. Military glory brought him not only personal popularity, but also strengthened his standing among senators and the imperial court. One of the key aspects of his military activity was establishing control over strategically important regions, ensuring the empire's security and border stability. Thanks to his successful operations, he earned respect among soldiers and officers, many of whom became his reliable supporters and allies in political intrigues. Besides direct involvement in military actions, the senator worked on army reforms, improving troop training, introducing new tactics and technologies, and taking care of material supply and soldiers' living conditions. These reforms increased the army's combat capability and discipline, which in the long term enhanced his influence. Military service also provided opportunities for accumulating significant material resources through the capture of spoils, control over supply lines, and taxes related to the army. The senator skillfully used these funds to finance his projects and strengthen his political base. Thus, his military career became not only a battlefield, but also an arena of political struggle, where he learned to manage not only the army, but also his own fate, building strong connections and increasing influence at all levels of power. Family life and dynastic plans of the senator. No political career in ancient Rome could be successful without a strong family foundation. For a senator, family was not just a personal refuge. It was the most important social institution, linking generations, maintaining social status, and ensuring the continuity of power. Creating and strengthening the family, raising children, and forming a dynasty were key aspects of the senator's life. His marriage was carefully planned and served not only personal, but also political purposes. Alliances between influential families were strategic tools for strengthening positions and expanding influence. The senator's wife came from a noble family, providing additional connections, support, and influence in various circles of power. This union allowed him to outpace rivals by combining resources and authority. The senator's household was characterized by strictness and discipline. Children's upbringing began early and aimed to develop qualities necessary to continue the lineage and participate in political life. Education included rhetoric, history, law, and military arts. Everything required for future leaders. Special attention was given to cultivating moral and ethical standards, reinforcing a sense of duty to family and state. His wife played an important role in family life, managing the household, overseeing children's education, and maintaining social connections. Her lifestyle, manners, and participation in religious and cultural events also influenced the senator's reputation and that of the entire family. Through her, the senator maintained links with the female part of the upper class, which expanded his sphere of influence. Besides children, the senator's household often included relatives, servants, and wards, creating an extensive family structure. Each person had their place and role, and discipline and order in the home reflected the general values and principles upheld by the family head. The senator carefully planned the future of his dynasty, aiming to pass on not only material wealth, but also political heritage. He educated his sons and daughters in the art of politics, organization, diplomacy, and military affairs, preparing them to continue his work. Special lessons, practical exercises, and participation in public events were arranged for this purpose. An important element of dynastic plans was arranging advantageous marriages for his children, ensuring the strengthening of alliances and expansion of influence. The senator controlled all aspects of these agreements, understanding that the political map of the city and empire was constantly changing, and the family had to be ready to adapt. Thus, the senator's family life was inseparable from his political career and ambitions. It represented a complex and well-thought-out mechanism, ensuring the continuity of power, stability, and growth of influence in society. Lifestyle and daily life of a wealthy senator. The lifestyle of a wealthy senator in Middle Rome reflected his status, power, and social standing. His home, a luxurious villa located in the heart of the city or in the suburbs, was not just a place of residence, but a center of political and social life. The interior decoration of the villa testified to wealth and refined taste. Mosaics depicting mythological scenes, statues of gods and heroes, elegant furniture made from rare woods, and rugs crafted by skilled artisans. The senator's day began early at sunrise. The first task was attending to personal matters and spending time in the library, studying the latest news, political reports, and philosophical treatises. Education and self-development were considered essential parts of life, as only with deep knowledge could one successfully manage affairs and participate in state councils. Breakfast was relatively modest, but rich in nutritious products: fresh fruits, olives, cheese, bread, and wine. After that, official receptions and meetings with friends, clients, and allies followed. The senator received petitions, resolved administrative issues, and listened to citizens' complaints. He constantly maintained connections with various social strata, from wealthy landowners to artisans and small merchants, since his influence depended on broad support. The day was filled with political sessions, negotiations, and diplomatic visits. The senator attended Senate meetings, took part in discussions and votes, demonstrating his influence and protecting interests. He knew how to listen, argue, and persuade, using personal charm and experience to achieve his goals. Lunch was the main meal in an important event. It was accompanied by noble guests, scholars, artists, and military men, all those who could help the senator in his career and personal plans. The table featured diverse dishes of fish, meat, vegetables, spices, and sweets, and wine flowed freely. Lunches were accompanied by music, poetry, and philosophical conversations, creating an atmosphere of intellectual and cultural exchange. After lunch, the senator could devote time to rest, walking in the gardens, exercising, or performing religious rites. He visited temples and altars, participating in ceremonies and prayers, strengthening ties with the gods and public institutions. Religion was an important part of life and political strategy, as support from priests and popular cults ensured respect and authority. In the evening, the senator's house again filled with guests, relatives, friends, and influential figures. Banquets, theatrical performances, and musical concerts took place. This was an opportunity to demonstrate status, expand the network of acquaintances, and strengthen alliances. The senator was a master of etiquette, able to maintain conversation on any topic and create an atmosphere of trust and respect. The senator's life was busy and demanded constant activity, but he knew how to balance work and rest, public and private. His lifestyle reflected the highest values of Roman society: honor, wisdom, courage, and service to the state. Economic power and estate management. The economic foundation of the senator's life was diverse and complex. The main source of his wealth was vast land holdings, spread both within the city and in the provinces. Managing these lands required not only extensive knowledge, but also advanced organizational skills to ensure a steady and stable income. Agriculture was the primary focus, growing grains, vineyards, olives, fruits, and vegetables, providing both for the family's needs and commercial sale. The senator did not engage in daily agricultural labor, but actively supervised managers, overseers, and workers. For this, a complex administrative structure was created, including agronomists, accountants, trade agents, and lawyers. He sought to implement new methods of soil cultivation and improve yields, By studying the experience of other lands and provinces, all agricultural processes were carefully planned, from sowing to storage and transportation of products. Livestock farming and breeding of domestic animals, cattle, sheep, goats, and poultry, were also significant. Animal husbandry provided meat, milk, wool, and leather, which could be sold or used within the household. Breeding required separate attention and resources, so special areas and rural farms were allocated for these purposes. Trade was an integral part of the senator's economic activity. He controlled the sale of products in city markets and exports beyond the empire's borders. Warehouses, trade agents, and caravans traveling important trade routes were employed for this. The senator maintained business relations with merchants and sea carriers, allowing profitable product sales and income generation. Financial management included tax collection from tenants and provincial towns, where the senator had rights to part of the revenues. Controlling these cash flows required strict discipline and a reliable accounting system to prevent theft and losses. If necessary, the senator resorted to legal procedures to recover debts and protect his interests. Besides agriculture, the senator invested in artisan workshops and small manufacturing enterprises, providing additional income. These could be pottery factories, smithies, textile enterprises, wineries, and olive presses. Controlling these facilities contributed to diversifying income sources and economic stability for the family. The senator did not neglect charity, an important element of his public image. He funded the construction of public buildings, temples, fountains, and roads, increasing his popularity among the people and strengthening his power. Helping the poor and organizing festivals were means of maintaining social harmony and loyalty among subjects. Thus, the senator's economic activity was a complex, multifaceted process, requiring not only capital, but also the ability to manage people and resources. Success in this sphere ensured material independence and influence necessary to maintain high status and realize political ambitions. Religion and its role in the senator's life. Religion in ancient Rome was an integral part of both public and private life for every citizen, especially for an influential senator. It functioned not only as a system of beliefs, but also as an important institution linking the state, society, and family. For a senator, observing religious rituals and participating in ceremonies were obligatory expressions of piety and respect for traditions that strengthened his authority and social status. Every morning, the senator began with prayers and sacrifices to the gods, who protected his family and home. Special attention was paid to gods associated with fertility, family protection, success in affairs, and political career. Jupiter, Juno, Minerva, as well as ancestral spirits, Lares and Penates. Religious rites included cleansing and consecration of the dwelling, offering gifts and reading prayers, creating an atmosphere of sanctity and security. The senator regularly visited public temples and took part in state religious ceremonies. Major holidays and festivals, Saturnalia, Lupercalia, Floralia, had not only religious significance, but also served as venues for demonstrating political power and strengthening social ties. The senator often acted as a patron for these events, funding games, sacrifices, and festive banquets. An important aspect of the senator's religious life was participation in priestly colleges and cult associations. Membership in the priesthood or special religious corporations gave access to a select circle of influential figures, helped expand the network of contacts, and reinforced authority in society. The senator could become a pontifex, augur, or flamen, titles that carried significant weight and symbolized his closeness to the divine and the state. Religion also served as a tool for political manipulation and legitimization of power. The senator used religious symbols and rituals to strengthen his image as a just and pious ruler, enhancing trust and loyalty among the people. In times of crisis or social unrest, he organized special prayers and sacrifices, calling upon the gods for protection and patronage. Moreover, religious rites accompanied key life stages: birth, marriage, and death. The senator strictly observed traditions, ensuring proper rituals for his family and dependents, which maintained a sense of unity and generational continuity. Thus, religion for the senator was not only a personal faith, but a powerful social and political instrument serving to consolidate power, maintain social harmony, and preserve the traditions of Great Rome. Education and intellectual pursuits of the senator. Education played a key role in the life of a wealthy Roman senator. It was perceived not merely as a means of acquiring knowledge, but as a foundation for developing civic virtues, political skills, and governance abilities. The senator's family ensured their children had access to the best teachers and tutors who taught grammar, rhetoric, philosophy, history, and law, disciplines necessary for a successful career in the Senate and higher state structures. The early years of boys and girls were supervised by private educators, grammarians, and rhetoricians who instilled skills in writing, reading, and eloquence. Particular attention was given to rhetoric, the art of persuasive speech capable of influencing listeners and achieving political goals. Knowledge of classical authors such as Cicero and Seneca was mandatory, as their works served as models for imitation and sources of wisdom. The senator himself actively continued his studies and intellectual development despite being busy with state affairs. His library was one of the richest, containing works of philosophers, historians, poets, and lawmakers. From time to time, he invited scholars and philosophers to hold discussions, debate current issues, and exchange ideas. This contributed not only to broadening his horizons, but also to strengthening political connections. Philosophy held a special place. Stoicism, Epicureanism, and Platonism helped the senator form inner resilience, composure, and moral guidelines. Through studying philosophical treatises, he sought answers to questions of justice, duty, and power, which were necessary for making wise decisions and maintaining authority in society. History served as a source of lessons from the past, which the senator aimed to apply in his activities. Knowledge of events, deeds, and mistakes of ancestors helped avoid repetition of errors and build more effective policies. Special attention was paid to the history of Rome and other great civilizations, expanding his worldview and understanding of global processes. Legal knowledge was essential for understanding laws and governance procedures. The senator was versed in legislation, capable of working with legal documents, and participated in judicial processes, which enhanced his influence and protected the interests of his family and dependents. Education was inseparable from cultural leisure, attending theaters, listening to poetry and music, and participating in literary gatherings. The senator valued art as an expression of the human soul and a means of cultivating taste and a sense of beauty. Thus, education and intellectual pursuits were an integral part of the senator's life, shaping his personality, strengthening his status, and helping successfully realize political and social objectives. Family life and child rearing of the senator family held a central place in the life of a Roman senator. It was not only a source of personal happiness, but also the foundation of his social and political power. Marriages were usually arranged to strengthen kinship ties, combine wealth, and expand influence. The choice of a wife was carefully controlled, considering her origin, family connections, and reputation. Often marriages became alliances between influential families, reinforcing political support and economic stability. The senator's household was the center of family life and a reflection of his status. It included not only immediate relatives, wife, children, sometimes parents, but also numerous slaves, tutors, mentors, and servants ensuring comfort and order. Family meals, celebrations, and religious rituals were held under the strict control of the head of the household, who maintained authority and discipline. Child rearing began in early childhood and had several stages. The main task was to develop virtuous character, discipline, and respect for traditions. Boys were prepared for future political and administrative careers, with great emphasis on education, physical training, and social skills. Girls were taught household management, manners, and basic religious rites, as their role was often linked to maintaining the family hearth and raising the next generation. Fathers played a key role in child upbringing. The senator personally supervised the education and development of heirs, guiding them towards responsibility and service to the family and state. They taught children resilience, honesty, business skills, and decision-making, considered essential for preserving family honor and influence. Military training and civic participation were also important elements, so boys became accustomed to future duties from an early age. The mother's role was that of the guardian of the home. She educated the daughters, provided moral support, and organized educational activities. Women understood the importance of family reputation and sought to instill respect for traditions and moral values in children. Family relations were built on patriarchal principles, where the head of the household had absolute authority and decision-making power. However, mutual respect and care for relatives were considered virtues supporting harmony and stability. Regular joint activities, reading, and discussions strengthened family bonds and formed a united stance. The family also served as a support system in the senator's political and social life. Relatives actively participated in public affairs, supported each other, created coalitions, and represented the family interests in various spheres. Thus, the family became not only a personal, but also a social institution, serving the continuation and strengthening of power. In general, the senator's family life was complex, full, and responsible, requiring constant attention, wisdom, and the ability to balance personal and public interests. The harmony and strength of the family largely determined the welfare and influence of the entire lineage. The senator's palace and daily life, architecture, and spatial organization. The residence of a wealthy senator in Rome was more than just a house. It was a true palace, a complex architectural ensemble reflecting not only the material wealth of its owner, but also his social status, cultural level, and political influence. Such houses were built with meticulous attention to detail and included many rooms and zones designed for various functions, from receiving guests to private rest and managing the household. The entrance was usually adorned with massive bronze or wooden doors, inlaid with decorative elements. The vestibulum, served as a transition zone from the street to the private space and was often decorated with mosaics and sculptures, showcasing the owner's wealth and taste. Guards or slaves might stand at the entrance, ensuring the family's peace. The central part of the house was the atrium, a large hall with an open roof, where a basin impluvium collected rainwater. The atrium served as a reception area for visitors and official gatherings. Here stood the altar dedicated to household gods, lares, and family spirits, emphasizing the religious significance of the space. The walls and floors of the atrium were adorned with frescoes, mosaics, and decorative columns, reflecting the aesthetic preferences of the owner. Rooms branched off from the atrium: guest reception rooms, triclinium, the senator's library, study, bedrooms, and utility spaces. The triclinia were spaces for banquets and formal dinners, where the master received important guests and discussed political and business matters. These rooms were richly decorated with fabrics, statues, and paintings, creating an atmosphere of grandeur and comfort. Special attention was given to the peristyle, a courtyard garden surrounded by a colonnade. The garden was decorated with fountains, statues, and exotic plants, creating a quiet place for rest, walks, and conversations. The peristyle symbolized harmony between nature and architecture and underscored the owner's refined taste. The kitchen and service areas were located in remote parts of the house, where slaves and servants prepared food and maintained cleanliness. The senator rarely appeared there, except for inspections or special occasions. The estate might also include slave quarters, stables, and storage rooms. Technical innovations of the time, Hippocaust heating systems, water supply, and sewage were actively employed in the senator's house, ensuring comfort and hygiene. Having a private bathhouse inside the residence or nearby was common for noble families, allowing them to maintain health and well-being. Life in such a house was organized according to strict rules and traditions. The supporting staff, slaves, and freedmen worked around the clock to ensure cleanliness, security, and comfort. The senator and his family could host guests, organize banquets, meetings, and cultural events in specially designated halls, demonstrating their power and generosity. Overall, the senator's house embodied Roman civilization, combining architectural art, engineering achievements, and cultural traditions to create a unique space for living, working, and public activity. Economic activities and estate management of the senator. In the life of a wealthy Roman senator, economics played a fundamental role, as material wealth determined not only personal prosperity, but also the ability to influence political processes, support clients, and finance public projects. Most of the senator's income came from owning extensive agricultural estates, villas, located both in Rome and in the provinces. Managing these estates was a complex, multi-layered process, requiring not only agricultural knowledge, but also the ability to organize the labor of numerous workers and slaves, oversee harvest collection, resource distribution, and trade of products. The senator often appointed managers, experienced overseers, villaci, who handled economic matters, monitored the state of crops, livestock, and fulfilled obligations to tenants and workers. The main crops on the estates were grains, wheat, barley, oats, which ensured food security. Olives and grapes were also cultivated, from which olive oil and wine were produced. Essential goods not only for domestic consumption, but also for export. Vineyards and olive groves required special care and skilled labor, so the senator allocated funds for specialists and infrastructure, presses, amphorae, warehouses. The labor of slaves and freedmen on fields and farm buildings formed the backbone of production power. The senator maintained order and discipline, sometimes personally visiting estates for supervision. Hard work in the fields was supplemented by seasonal activities: harvest gathering, winemaking, irrigation system repairs. Livestock farms, where cattle, sheep, and pigs were bred, provided meat, dairy products, and wool for the family table. Beyond agriculture, the senator invested in trade and crafts. Many estates had workshops, smithies, pottery studios, tanning facilities, producing goods for local markets and export. Trade routes connected provinces with Rome, enabling the senator to earn profits and maintain business ties. Financial management required bookkeeping of income and expenses, tax control, and rent collection. The senator had a staff of accountants and clerks who maintained records and prepared reports. Economic stability and capital growth allowed financing construction of public buildings, temples, roads, which strengthened prestige and political power. Special attention was paid to relations with clients and dependents, peasants, artisans, merchants, who received support and protection from the senator in exchange for loyalty and services. This client system was an important part of Roman social structure and based on mutual obligations. Thus, economic management and estate administration were integral and complex parts of the senator's life, requiring strategic thinking, organizational skills, and constant oversight to maintain wealth and influence. A vital part of social connections was hierarchy, respect for age, rank, and achievements. Senators adhered to etiquette and traditions, strictly observing behavioral norms, which bolstered their authority and trustworthiness. Any breach of social norms could lead to reputation loss and political isolation. Finally, social ties had not only practical, but also symbolic significance. They expressed belonging to the elite, reflecting the level of education, wealth, and power. Public interactions, support, and recognition created the image of the senator as a worthy leader, capable of governing the state and caring for his subjects. Thus, social connections and influence were key instruments for a senator, ensuring the stability of his position within the complex and dynamic structure of Roman society. Daily life and routine of a Roman senator. The daily life of a Roman senator was filled with numerous duties and rituals, reflecting his high status and role in society. Early rising symbolized discipline and a serious approach to serving the state. The day began with a morning ritual, washing, dressing in the toga, which symbolized citizenship and rank. The toga was not just clothing, but a symbolic element defining one's social class and important for public image. The first part of the day was often devoted to receiving clients, people seeking advice, help, or patronage. The senator listened to their requests, gave guidance, promised support, or referred them to other influential figures. These meetings were not only expressions of goodwill, but strategic tools for strengthening political and social influence. Relations with clients were built on mutual trust and obligations, making these morning hours particularly important. After receiving clients, the senator might head to the Senate where sessions were held, state affairs discussed, laws passed, and political questions resolved. Senate meetings required attentiveness, the ability to listen to opponents, argue one's position, and support allies. The senator prepared speeches in advance, carefully crafting arguments and considering the political climate. Between sessions, the senator visited various public venues, theaters, gymnasiums, temples. Such places were centers of cultural life and social interaction, where influential people could meet, exchange news, and make important arrangements. The senator showed himself as a patron of arts and religion by participating in religious ceremonies, financing festivals, and supporting artists. The midday meal, or cena, was not just a time for eating, but a significant social event. The senator hosted banquets with exquisite dishes, inviting guests from the nobility, politicians, and representatives of different social strata. During meals, conversations covered politics, philosophy, and culture. The banquet was a means of strengthening friendships and demonstrating status. After lunch, rest followed, which the senator could spend at his villa or public baths. Baths were not only places for hygiene, but centers of social life where news was discussed, deals made, and political alliances formed. Baths followed specific etiquette and rituals reflecting education and culture. Evenings might include attending public performances, gladiator games, musical concerts, or poetry readings. These entertainments not only provided pleasure, but strengthened ties with the populace and demonstrated the senator's care for cultural development. The senator could personally finance such events, increasing his popularity and respect. At night, the senator spent time with family, discussing the day's events and future plans. Family relationships were vital, as lineage continuation and heirs' upbringing guaranteed preservation of status and influence. Children's education included literacy, rhetoric, history, and military training. Thus, the senator's daily routine was well structured, combining duties, social activity, cultural and family traditions, reflecting the complex and multifaceted nature of his position in Roman society. Power and wealth. Sources of income for a Roman senator. The power of a Roman senator was closely tied to his economic might, as money and resources ensured not only a luxurious lifestyle, but also political influence, maintenance of the client network, and public recognition. The sources of a senator's income were diverse, consisting of land ownership, investments in trade and industry, as well as state offices, which sometimes provided direct income or allowed indirect benefits. The primary and most reliable source of wealth was land ownership. Senators traditionally held large estates, latifundia, scattered across various regions of Italy and the provinces. These lands were cultivated by slaves and hired laborers, generating income from agriculture, including grain, olives, vineyards, livestock, and other farming activities. The landowner controlled production, distribution, and sale of products, providing a stable flow of funds. Besides agriculture, senators often financed trading enterprises and maritime transport. Control over trade routes and involvement in import-export operations yielded substantial profits. Although trade was officially considered a less honorable activity for aristocracy, many senators found ways to use commercial investments through intermediaries and trusted agents, allowing income diversification. Investments in mining industries, including metal and stone extraction, were another source of wealth. The variety of natural resources in the Roman Empire allowed profit from resource exploitation, supplying materials for construction and weapon production. Senators often held shares in such enterprises, or leased them to entrepreneurs. State positions, while not always bringing direct income, opened opportunities for indirect benefits. Senators could leverage their office to promote family and client interests, acquire land parcels, contracts for supplies, or government commissions. Although such practices were formally restricted by laws, they often occurred through corruption and personal connections. Inherited wealth and dowries played a vital role, passed down through generations to maintain a high standard of living. Family fortunes built over centuries, skillful management, and capital multiplication helped preserve influence and power. Moreover, a significant part of expenses consisted of public obligations, building temples, forums, baths, sponsoring festivals and games. These expenditures were seen not merely as costs, but as investments in reputation and social capital. By demonstrating generosity and care for the city and its people, the senator reinforced his position and gained support in political struggles. Thus, a senator's power and wealth were interconnected and fueled each other, forming the foundation of a stable position in society and the ability to influence Rome's fate. Education and upbringing of a Roman senator. The path to power and wisdom. Education and upbringing played a crucial role in the life of a Roman senator, as knowledge, skills, and intellectual preparation determined his ability to govern the state, participate in political debates, and maintain social status. The path to the pinnacle of power began in childhood and included systematic learning, development of rhetoric, philosophy, law, history, and military arts. From an early age, boys from noble families were taught literacy and basic arithmetic by specially trained tutors and slave teachers. Great attention was paid to developing memory and the ability to recall and present information, important for public speeches and participation in Senate debates. Reading classical works, such as those by Cicero, Horace, and Virgil, shaped not only knowledge but also aesthetic taste. Rhetoric occupied a central place in a future senator's education. The art of eloquence was considered a necessary tool for successful politics and judicial proceedings. Training included argument construction, audience persuasion, and defending one's position. Young men participated in public debates, forums, and rhetorical contests, developing communication skills and self-confidence. Philosophy provided a foundation for understanding moral principles, ethics, and the role of a person in society. Students became familiar with Stoic, Epicurean, and Platonic teachings, helping to form a worldview and behavioral strategy in complex political situations. Knowledge of philosophical concepts allowed senators to make balanced decisions based not only on personal gain, but also on the welfare of the state. The study of law was a mandatory element, as senators were involved in legislation and judicial activities. Knowledge of Roman law, procedures, and precedents ensured competence in resolving legal issues and protecting the interests of constituents and clients. Legal literacy was essential for managing property and interacting with state institutions. Military training complemented the overall educational complex. Senators, especially young ones, served in the army, gaining practical experience in command, strategy, and discipline. Military glory strengthened their reputation and political positions. Understanding military affairs enabled senators to participate in discussions on security and foreign policy. Beyond formal education, upbringing in the spirit of patriotism, family traditions, and public duty was highly important. Parents and mentors sought to instill a sense of duty to the state, responsibility for the people, and a pursuit of justice in the future senator. These values shaped moral character and served as guidance in complex life and political situations. Thus, the education and upbringing of a Roman senator represented a comprehensive process aimed at forming a leader capable of combining intellectual wisdom, oratory mastery, moral resilience, and practical management skills. The senator's family: marriage, children, and kinship. The family played a central role in the life of a Roman senator, serving as the foundation for maintaining social status, transferring wealth, and forming political alliances. Marriage and kinship ties were not merely personal, but strategic tools that ensured the continuation of the lineage, strengthened influence, and expanded the network of acquaintances among the elite. The choice of a spouse for a senator was often determined more by political and economic benefits than personal feelings. Parents or senior relatives carefully selected a candidate, considering her origin, family wealth, and the potential for establishing new alliances. Marriages were often arranged between influential houses to unite capital and support mutual interests in the Senate and society. Marriage ceremonies were marked by solemnity and symbolism. The bride and groom exchanged gifts, and religious rites honored Juno, the goddess protector of marriage and family. Great attention was paid to maintaining traditions, emphasizing the importance of the marriage institution in society. The senator's wife held a significant role in the household and public life. She managed the estate, oversaw slaves and children's upbringing, participated in religious rituals, and maintained connections with other noble families. Although women could not directly participate in politics, their influence on their husbands and their networks played a crucial role in strengthening the family's position. Senators' children were raised in the spirit of continuing traditions and preparing for future service to the state. Education began early and included language, history, law, and military training. Eldest sons were prepared to be heirs and political successors, while younger children often chose religious or military careers. Upbringing was strict, requiring discipline and respect for family values. Kinship ties and family alliances expanded the senator's sphere of influence. Relatives could hold important offices, support family interests in various fields, and provide political protection. Such connections formed the basis for the stability and prosperity of the family across generations. Beyond immediate relatives, the senator surrounded himself with a large client network. People dependent on his patronage. Clients became part of an extended family, receiving protection and assistance in exchange for loyalty and support in political and public affairs. Thus, the senator's family was a complex institution intertwining personal relationships, public duties, and political interests. Managing family ties required wisdom and skill, and success in this sphere directly affected career and status in Rome. The senator's house and daily life, architecture, interior, and routine. The residence of a Roman senator was a reflection of his status, taste, and wealth. The domus was not merely a living space. It was a symbol of power, respectability, and the cultural level of the family. Architecture, interior decoration, and daily rituals created an atmosphere emphasizing the senator's importance in society and allowing him to host guests, conduct negotiations, and hold lavish receptions. A Roman senator's house was usually located within the city walls, often in prestigious districts of Rome, such as the Palatine Hill or areas near the Forum. It was a complex of buildings united by common walls and an inner courtyard. The center of the house was the atrium, a spacious hall with an open roof and a basin, impluvium, for collecting rainwater. The atrium served as a reception area and a place for family ceremonies. Around the atrium were rooms, richly decorated with frescoes, paintings on wet plaster depicting mythological scenes, landscapes, daily life, or abstract patterns. Floors were covered with mosaics made of small stones, creating intricate patterns and images that impressed visitors with their craftsmanship. Behind the atrium lay the peristyle, an open garden surrounded by colonnades, flower beds, fountains, and sculptures. The peristyle was a place for relaxation and walks, an oasis of freshness and greenery amid the urban bustle. Here, the family spent time, received guests, and held private conversations. Special rooms for banquets, triclinia, held great importance. They were furnished with couches on which guests reclined during meals. The banquet was not just a meal, but a social event where political news was discussed, deals made, and connections strengthened. The kitchen and auxiliary rooms were located in less visible parts of the house. Food preparation was done by slaves, who ensured impeccable service and a variety of dishes including meat, fish, vegetables, fruits, and exotic spices. Daily life in the senator's house followed a strict routine. Mornings began with a ritual. The senator greeted clients and dependents in the atrium, listening to their requests and providing advice or assistance. This practice reinforced social bonds and confirmed his role as a patron and leader. During the day, the senator attended to business, received guests, and discussed political and legal matters. Evenings were marked by banquets and entertainment, including music, poetry, theatrical performances, and philosophical discussions. Special attention was given to religious ceremonies, held both at home and nearby temples. The senator and his family performed daily sacrifices, prayed to the gods, and sought blessings for their endeavors and health. Thus, the senator's house was not only a living space, but a center of public life, where personal and political, tradition and innovation, wealth and culture intertwined. The senator's economic standing, sources of income and estate management. Economic prosperity was the foundation of a Roman senator's life and career. Wealth not only enabled maintaining a high standard of living and hosting lavish events, but also ensured political influence and social prestige. The main sources of income for a senator were landed estates, revenues from trade and enterprises, as well as financial investments and payments from clients. The primary component of most senators' capital was large landed estates spread across various regions of the Roman Empire. From Italy to the provinces, these villas and farms included arable lands, vineyards, olive groves, and pastures. Managing such estates required organizing a large staff, slaves, overseers, and managers who supervised planting, harvesting, animal husbandry, and sales of produce. Land ownership was not only a source of income, but also a symbol of status and political power. Senators often sought to acquire new plots, expanding their influence and economic base. Control over land allowed influence over local populations, appointment of officials, and participation in provincial administration. Trade and commercial enterprises, though limited, provided additional income. Many senators owned shares in shipping companies, workshops, markets, and banks. However, the senatorial class traditionally avoided direct commercial activity, considering it less noble than agriculture and public service. Such matters were usually entrusted to managers and slaves. Financial investments included lending money at interest. Usury was common among the elite. Senators also invested in construction projects, such as public buildings and temples, which enhanced their reputation and political capital. Such charitable acts were regarded as duties and expressions of care for the city. An important aspect of the estate management was the client system, people materially and politically dependent on the senator. They offered support in exchange for assistance, protection, and patronage. This network of dependents contributed to expanding influence and controlling various life spheres. Funds were also spent on maintaining slaves, organizing festivals, educating children, and upkeep of the residents. Financial planning was essential to preserve status and pursue political ambitions. Thus, the senator's economic position represented a complex system of interconnected income sources and obligations, requiring skilled management and strategic approach to preserve and multiply capital. The senator's education, studies, mentors, and intellectual development education played a key role in shaping a Roman senator, as success in politics, law, and public life depended directly on the level of knowledge and rhetorical skills. Education began in early childhood and continued throughout life, including private schooling, lessons with personal tutors, and independent study of classical texts. From a young age, boys from noble families learned reading, writing, and the basics of rhetoric. Parents and tutors paid great attention to developing the ability to express thoughts clearly and persuasively, a necessary skill for participating in public debates and speeches in the Senate. Works of famous orators and philosophers such as Cicero and Demosthenes were used for this purpose. A significant part of the curriculum was grammar, literature, and history. Knowledge of Roman and other cultures' histories was important to understand political context and traditions. Education also included studying the Greek language and philosophy, as Greece was considered the cradle of wisdom and culture, and many elite Romans spoke Greek fluently. Special attention was given to legal education. Roman law was a complex system, and senators needed to understand its norms to effectively engage in legislation and judicial processes. Often, jurists served as mentors for young aristocrats, imparting knowledge and practical skills. Military training was an integral part of upbringing. A senator had to understand strategy and tactics, be able to command troops, and possess physical endurance. Young men underwent drills and served in the army, which also helped gain authority and experience. Education was accompanied by philosophical discussions and the study of ethics, shaping worldview and moral guidelines. Senators aspired to ideals of virtue, justice, and wisdom, which were reflected in their public activities. Besides formal education, practice was an important element of development. Participation in political debates, speeches, and legal proceedings. Young aristocrats began their careers in lower offices, gradually gaining experience and respect. Thus, a Roman senator's education was a multi-stage and comprehensive process aimed at forming a well-rounded personality capable of governing the state and leading society. The senator's political career, the path to the pinnacle of power. The political career of a Roman senator was a complex and multifaceted process, involving gradual advancement through the ranks, demonstrating competence, and strengthening personal connections. The senatorial career was built on the principles of the cursus honorum, a sequential progression through specific offices, starting from junior magistracies and culminating in the consulship. The first step in a political career was the position of quaestor, a financial administrator overseeing the treasury and tax collection. Quaestors often served in provinces or during military campaigns, gaining valuable administrative experience and contacts. This position opened the doors to the Senate and was mandatory for further advancement. The next step was the aedileship, an office responsible for organizing public games, maintaining order, and overseeing city infrastructure. Aediles paid attention to festivals and construction of public buildings, which increased their popularity among the populace. After the aedileship, a senator could aspire to the praetorship, a position associated with judicial authority. Praetors presided over civil and criminal cases and also had military command rights. This was a key position, demonstrating legal competence and leadership ability. The highest magistracy was the consulship, a post granting influence over legislation and foreign policy. Consuls led the Senate, commanded armies, and represented Rome internationally. A consul needed not only knowledge and experience, but also the support of powerful allies. The senator's career path was not just a series of offices, but a constant struggle for influence and respect. Senators participated in debates, formed coalitions, built relationships with emperors and generals. The ability to negotiate, speak publicly, and find compromises was vital. Roman politics also involved elections, where the votes of patricians, client support, and financial influence played important roles. Some senators resorted to generous gifts and organizing festivities to secure electoral support. The risks of political life were high. Opponents resorted to intrigue, bribery, and even violence. Nevertheless, ambitions and a desire to serve Rome drove senators to overcome difficulties and strive for the heights of power. Thus, a Roman senator's political career was a complex set of challenges requiring knowledge, charisma, strategic thinking, and the ability to interact with diverse social groups. The senator's family: structure, role, and influence. The family was the cornerstone of a Roman senator's life, serving not only as a personal support, but also as a crucial social and political institution. Family ties formed the foundation for maintaining status, inheriting property, and strengthening influence in society. The family structure among the upper echelons of Rome was distinguished by a strict hierarchy, with the patriarch holding absolute authority. At the center of the family stood the father, pater familias, who had full legal and economic control over all family members. He decided matters of marriage, managed property, and could impose strict measures on relatives, including corporal punishment. The patriarch was not only the head of the household, but also a symbol of traditions and Roman values. The senator's wife held an important yet subordinate position. She was responsible for raising children, managing the household, and organizing receptions. Often wives came from influential families, and marriage was a strategic alliance that strengthened the family's political and economic positions. The woman's wealth and reputation directly affected the status of the entire lineage. Children, especially sons, were raised with their future roles in mind. Boys were prepared from an early age for political and military careers, learning rhetoric, law, and military arts. Girls were taught household management and family relations to become worthy wives and mothers of future leaders. Inheritance of property played a key role in preserving influence. Most wealth was passed to the eldest son, maintaining estate integrity and social weight of the family. Other children might receive land plots, monetary sums, or appointments to administrative positions. Beyond direct relatives, the family included slaves and clients, who were also important parts of the household and political network. Slaves performed domestic, administrative, and personal duties, while clients provided support and social influence. Family rituals, traditions, and celebrations reinforced a sense of belonging and cohesion. Joint participation in religious ceremonies, ancestor worship, and commemorating important dates sustained spiritual bonds and the family's social significance. The family was also an instrument of political alliances and social intrigues. Through marriages and connections with other influential houses, coalitions were formed, facilitating career advancement and protecting interests. Overall, the Roman senator's family was a complex, multi-layered system of relationships that ensured not only personal welfare, but also the stability and power of the entire lineage. The senator's estate, structure, management, and economic base. A Roman senator's estate was a complex and extensive agricultural and economic complex that formed the basis of his wealth, influence, and social stability. These landholdings, villas, and large agricultural plots spanned significant areas both within Italy and in the provinces, serving as a source of income and resources for the entire family and their political ambitions. Structurally, the estate was divided into several parts: the main residence with the owner's house, farm buildings, workshops, storage facilities, and vast arable land. The main house, domus, was an architectural expression of the senator's status, spacious, adorned with marble, mosaics, frescoes, and sculptures. Gardens, fountains, and pools in the courtyards created an atmosphere of luxury and grandeur. The estate's economic activity was diverse. The primary income came from agriculture, growing cereals, grapes, olives, and vegetables. Livestock breeding and artisanal production were also developed. Large villas housed bakeries, oil presses, wineries, smithies, and other workshops that supplied not only internal needs, but also trade in local markets. Management of the estate was a complex task. requiring clear division of responsibilities. The senator rarely managed the estate personally. Overseers, vilici, were hired to supervise slaves and free workers, allocate resources, organize harvests, and monitor finances. Numerous slaves worked under this management, performing both heavy physical labor and more delicate tasks, such as accounting and quality control. The workforce was diverse. Slaves formed the basis of productive labor, but free peasants, colony, also worked by leasing land and paying part of their produce or money to the owner. This coexistence of slave and free labor ensured flexibility and resilience of the enterprise. Trade and product distribution played an equally important role. Surplus produce was sold at markets in Rome and other cities, generating additional income and expanding the senator's business connections. Estates were often linked to a network of trade agents and transporters, allowing control over sales and market intelligence. The estate's economic power guaranteed the senator's independence and political influence. Wealth allowed financing of public projects, games, temple construction, and maintaining client loyalty. The prosperity of the estate directly reflected the social status and strength of the owner's political position. Thus, a Roman senator's estate was not merely an agricultural unit, but a large-scale social and economic system that ensured his dominance and stability in society. Education and upbringing of a senator, the path to wisdom and power. The education of a Roman senator played a fundamental role in shaping his personality, worldview, and ability to govern the state. In the Roman aristocracy, the upbringing of future leaders was a systematic, multi-stage process aimed at developing skills in speaking, thinking, analyzing, and decision-making. From early childhood, boys from noble families received basic education at home, under the guidance of tutors and Greek teachers, pedagogues, rhetoricians, and philosophers. Greek culture held great prestige in Rome, and knowledge of the Greek language and literature was considered essential for an educated person. Exposure to Homeric poetry, the philosophy of Plato and Aristotle, history and rhetoric formed the intellectual foundation of a future senator. Education began with learning grammar and basic writing, then progressed to rhetoric, the art of eloquence, public speaking, and persuasion. Rhetoric was a vital skill because Roman politics relied heavily on skillful speeches and debates in the Senate and popular assemblies. Lessons included exercises in composing speeches, delivering them, and defending one's positions. In addition to grammarians and rhetoricians, children studied history, philosophy, law, and military affairs. Knowledge of law provided an understanding of government institutions and legislation essential for future magistracies. Military education, including tactics and strategy, prepared them for possible command of legions and participation in military campaigns. Among philosophical schools, Stoicism and Epicureanism were popular, teachings that developed the ability to remain calm in difficult situations, make wise decisions, and pursue virtue. Senators aspired to ideals of moderation, justice, and responsibility toward the state. Education continued into adulthood, as senators had to constantly improve their knowledge and adapt to changing political conditions. Many participated in literary and philosophical circles, exchanged ideas, and found new allies through intellectual discussions. Upbringing also included physical training, sports, horseback riding, and martial arts, necessary to maintain health and prepare for military service. Physical endurance and strength were regarded as important qualities of a leader. Thus, the education and upbringing of a senator constituted a comprehensive process combining cultural, intellectual, and physical aspects, shaping a citizen ready for responsible service to Rome and society. The political career of a senator: stages, challenges, and strategies for success. The political career of a Roman senator was a complex and multi-stage process that required not only knowledge and skills, but also patience, cunning, the ability to negotiate and build alliances. The path to the heights of power passed through a series of official positions, called cursus honorum, which provided necessary experience and authority. The career typically began with the office of quaestor, a junior official responsible for financial affairs, usually in the provinces or Rome itself. This role served as the first experience in managing state resources and interacting with bureaucracy. Quaestors often accompanied senior magistrates or military commanders, becoming acquainted with administrative and military matters. The next step could be praetor, a position with judicial and administrative powers that opened access to provincial governance. Praetors heard cases, managed municipalities, and sometimes led armies. This level allowed the senator to demonstrate competence, fairness, and leadership skills. The highest point in the career was the consulship, the supreme magistrate of the Roman Republic and later the Empire. Consuls governed the state, convened the Senate, commanded armies, and represented Rome on the international stage. Achieving the consulship meant reaching the pinnacle of political fame and influence. Along the way, senators faced numerous challenges. Strong political connections, the support of influential patrons, and the ability to campaign among the people and Senate members were necessary. Oratory skills and public speaking were crucial, as political struggles were fought not only behind the scenes but also in forums and popular assemblies. Additionally, senators had to navigate between various interest groups, knowing when to support reforms and when to preserve the status quo, negotiating with military leaders, priests, and financial elites. Compromises were often required without losing personal reputation. Political careers were closely tied to personal honor and public image. Senators were expected to uphold high standards of conduct, maintain morality, and demonstrate concern for the welfare of the state and citizens. Public charitable projects, games, and temple construction served not only as displays of virtue, but also as means to strengthen popularity. An essential component of success was a network of clients, dependent individuals who supported the senator during elections and various public affairs. These relationships were built on mutual benefit. Patrons provided protection and material support, while clients offered votes and loyalty. Thus, the political career of a Roman senator demanded comprehensive knowledge, strategic thinking, social skills, and impeccable reputation. Success depended on the ability to balance personal ambitions, public expectations, and the realities of state power. The senator's family life, traditions, responsibilities, and influence of the clan. The family of a Roman senator was not only a private institution, but also a fundamental element of Rome's political and social structure. The role of the family extended far beyond the personal. It ensured the continuation of the lineage, strengthened connections, and formed reputation, which was crucial for maintaining and expanding power. The head of the family was the paterfamilias, usually the eldest male, holding full authority over all family members, including wife, children, and slaves. He made key decisions, controlled property, and represented the entire clan in public life. The paterfamilias power was nearly absolute within the family, but had to conform to Roman traditions and legal norms. The senator's wife played an important role. Though she formally had no political rights, she managed the household, raised the children, and maintained the family's honor. Educated and noble, she often became the guardian of family traditions, ensuring the transmission of cultural and moral values to future generations. Children, especially sons, were raised with the aim of continuing the family legacy and preparing for political careers. Special attention was given to education and inculcation of virtues, loyalty, respect for ancestors, and discipline. Daughters were married into other influential families, thereby strengthening political and economic alliances. Family ties formed the basis of the senator's social network. Marriages were arranged not only for personal reasons, but also to expand influence, gain support, and access new resources. Family alliances could shift the balance of power in the Senate and provinces. Family commemorations, celebrations, and religious rites dedicated to gods and ancestors had special significance. They reinforced internal bonds and demonstrated the public importance of the clan. Senators often financed temple constructions, festivals, and public events in honor of their ancestors. The family also provided material support to its members and clients, acting as a center of social assistance. Resources were allocated to maintain status and secure the loyalty of dependents. Conflicts within the family were not uncommon, especially regarding inheritance and authority. But traditions and social norms encouraged unity for the common good and public image. Overall, the senator's family was a vital social unit, a source of strength and stability, and the foundation for political and social activity in Rome. Land ownership and agriculture, the economic foundation of a senator's wealth. For a Roman senator, land ownership was not only a source of wealth, but also a symbol of status, power, and influence. Land played a central role in economic, social, and political life, and skillful management ensured stability and prosperity for the family line. Large estates, called latifundia, covered vast territories, often located in Italian provinces such as Campania, Latium, Tuscany, as well as outside Italy, in Gaul, Spain, Africa, and Asia. These lands included arable fields, vineyards, olive groves, pastures, and forests. Managing the estate required organizing the labor of many slaves, hired workers, and free peasants who planted, tended crops, harvested, and processed products. The senator appointed managers, villaci and domestici, who handled the day-to-day affairs, maintained order, and kept records. Agriculture involved growing cereal crops, wheat, barley, oats, that were the basis of the population's diet and primary trade goods. Vineyards and olive plantations produced wine and oil, important export commodities highly demanded in Rome and beyond. Besides farming, the senator's lands housed workshops, smithies, granaries, and storage facilities that processed produce and stored supplies. Developed infrastructure contributed to efficient estate management. Income from estates supported not only the family, but also funded political activities, election expenses, public games, construction projects, and charity. Economic power ensured independence and influence in the Senate. Furthermore, land ownership was a key factor in social stability. As a major landowner, the senator acted as a patron for local inhabitants, providing protection, aid, and employment opportunities. However, managing large estates came with challenges. Preventing slave revolts, controlling expenses, resolving labor disputes, and coping with natural disasters and market fluctuations. In sum, land ownership and agriculture formed a complex system requiring from the senator not only wealth but also knowledge, organizational skills, and political wisdom to maintain and increase his influence. Education and upbringing of a senator, the path to wisdom and power. The education of a Roman senator was one of the key factors in his future success in politics and society. From an early age, boys from noble families received comprehensive training aimed at developing intellectual, moral, and physical qualities necessary for life among Rome's elite. Initial schooling began at home under the guidance of a grammaticus, a teacher who instructed reading, writing, basics of rhetoric, and grammar. Great importance was given to learning Latin and Greek, as knowledge of classical literature, philosophy, and history was considered essential for an educated Roman. Reading Homer, Cicero, and Greek classics was an integral part of the educational process. From a young age, children were taught rhetoric, the art of eloquence, which was the cornerstone of a political career. The ability to persuade audiences, conduct debates, and deliver public speeches was a vital skill for a senator. Training included practical exercises, speech writing, study of legal texts, and court proceedings. In addition to intellectual development, physical education was highly valued. Boys engaged in sports, horseback riding, fencing, and military training. These skills were necessary not only for health, but also for participation in military campaigns, an important aspect of political and public life. Education was closely linked to the cultivation of virtues, justice, courage, moderation, honesty and loyalty to the state. These moral qualities upheld social order and strengthened the senator's credibility. Learning continued into adulthood, often under the guidance of philosophers or tutors who helped broaden horizons and deepen knowledge in law, politics, and ethics. Senators actively participated in discussions and debates, fostering critical thinking and strategic planning. Education also included acquaintance with the history of Rome and other peoples, allowing better understanding of political processes and making informed decisions. Deep legal knowledge granted authority to senators in judicial matters and legislative activities. Thus, the education of a Roman senator was a comprehensive process aimed at forming a well-rounded individual, capable of effective governance and societal influence. The political career of a senator, the path to the pinnacle of power and influence. The political career of a Roman senator represented a carefully constructed sequence of offices and duties that ensured gradual advancement to the highest levels of state power. This path was complex, requiring not only knowledge and talent, but also the ability to build relationships, earn trust, and influence public opinion. The career typically began with the position of junior quaestor, a magistrate responsible for financial affairs. At this stage, the young senator learned to manage public funds, became acquainted with the mechanisms of public administration, and acquired initial bureaucratic skills. The quaestorship served as a kind of school, where understanding of governmental processes was formed. After successfully fulfilling quaestor duties, a senator could be elected as aedile or praetor. Aediles were responsible for organizing public events, maintaining order, and managing urban infrastructure. This office demanded skills in managing large projects, interacting with different social strata, and demonstrating personal efficiency. The praetorship was more significant, an office combining judicial and administrative powers, granting authority to make important decisions in legal and political fields. The praetor wielded broad powers in provincial governance and the judicial system, enabling experience acquisition and authority strengthening. The next step was the consulship, the pinnacle of a political career, granting access to the highest state functions. The consul commanded the army, convened the Senate, influenced legislation and foreign policy. Achieving the consulship required not only outstanding personal qualities, but also broad support in the Senate and among the populace. Throughout the career, the senator actively participated in Senate sessions, proposed initiatives, built coalitions, and engaged in elections and state councils. The Senate was a place not only for lawmaking, but also for discussions about Rome's future, demanding diplomacy and strategic thinking. Alongside political activity, the senator built a network of patrons and clients, securing support during elections and governance. Interaction with the masses, charity, and organization of public games were parts of the strategy to strengthen personal authority. Though formally Republican, Rome's political system was full of intrigue, rivalry, and power struggles. The ability to navigate among various factions, maintain reputation, and find compromises was essential for a successful senator. Thus, the political career of a Roman senator was not merely public service, but a complex art requiring knowledge, skills, and a high level of personal responsibility. The role of family and kinship in the life of a senator, a fortress of influence and support. In medieval Rome, or more precisely in the late antique period when the traditions of the Roman Senate still held significance, family played a central role in any senator's life. The family was not only a source of personal happiness and moral support, but also a crucial social and political institution around which strategies of power and influence were built. A senator's lineage typically included several generations, from grandparents to grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Family ties connected not only close relatives, but also more distant ones, cousins, second cousins, uncles, and aunts, together forming a wide network of mutual aid and obligations. Marriage held special importance. It was arranged not only out of love, but more often for political and economic reasons. Through matrimonial alliances, families united, strengthened their social standing, and expanded influence. Unions between powerful clans ensured mutual support in the Senate, elections, and legal matters. Senators' wives played a vital role in maintaining the household and raising children. They taught daughters household management and social etiquette, while sons were educated in moral principles essential for their future. Moreover, women often acted as intermediaries in political negotiations and maintained connections with other noble families. Children, especially sons, were prepared to continue their father's legacy. From a young age, they were taught family traditions, Roman law, and rhetoric, guided toward political and public life. Family name and reputation provided a solid foundation for their future careers. Besides immediate relatives, the senator surrounded himself with clients, free people to whom he offered patronage in exchange for support. This client network was vital for political activity and social stability. Clients helped the senator organize elections, disseminate information, and even resolve conflicts. Financial support from the family enabled the holding of public events, construction of temples, forums, and baths, which reinforced the clan's authority. These projects served not only public good, but also demonstrated the senator's power and wealth. Kinship ties and family traditions were passed down through generations, preserving unity and strengthening societal positions. This allowed the senator not only to consolidate his influence, but also to create a lasting legacy, which remained an essential element of Roman political life. Thus, family in the life of a senator was simultaneously a support, a tool of power, and a means of maintaining social structure, without which success and status could not be achieved or preserved. Daily life of a senator, scheduled duties, and rituals. The life of a Roman senator was filled with a variety of duties, rituals, and social events that structured his day from dawn until late evening. Despite outward splendor and privileges, each day required discipline, strict adherence to traditions, and active participation in public life. A senator's morning began early. Before sunrise, he would wake to attend to personal hygiene and spiritual practices. Maintaining not only physical health, but also inner balance was essential. Many senators adhered to a simple lifestyle that included moderate eating and regular physical exercise, such as walking, light athletics, or even horseback riding. After morning preparations, the senator received clients and acquaintances. This practice, known as salutatio, was a crucial element of social life. People came seeking support or advice, and he in turn demonstrated benevolence and engagement. This exchange reinforced relationships and built political bases. During the day, the senator attended Senate sessions where laws were discussed, offices assigned, and key matters of state governance decided. Work in the Senate demanded attentiveness, skill in argumentation, and listening to opponents. Often informal meetings followed, where coalitions and political alliances were formed. Time between official engagements was dedicated to managing his property, household affairs, and preparing speeches. Managing a villa and estates was a complex process requiring oversight of slaves, bookkeeping, and agricultural season planning. A wealthy senator often owned dozens or even hundreds of slaves, making him a major landowner with significant economic interests. Evenings featured banquets, senatorial convivium, where political news, philosophical questions, and cultural topics were discussed. These events were important for reinforcing status, demonstrating erudition, and forging essential connections. The banquets included exquisite cuisine, music, and poetry. Before sleep, the senator devoted time to personal pursuits, reading philosophical works, writing letters, or reflecting on upcoming matters. Much of his life was built on traditions, rituals, and a sense of duty toward the state and family. Thus, a senator's daily life was a harmonious blend of public service, family responsibilities, and personal development. External luxury was combined with inner discipline and constant readiness for new challenges. Land ownership and agriculture, the foundation of a senator's wealth and power. For a Roman senator, land ownership was not merely a symbol of status, It was the material base of his power and influence. Land holdings constituted a significant portion of his wealth, provided steady income and social influence both in the provinces and in the capital. Agrarian economy remained the backbone of life and prosperity for the elite in late Rome. Senators owned vast estates, villas, located both near the city and in the rural depths of the empire. Villas were large agricultural complexes including residential buildings, warehouses, workshops, and arable fields. Managing these estates required complex organization. The senator often appointed a steward, villicus or economicus, who oversaw daily affairs, coordinated slave labor, and supervised sowing and harvesting. Controlling slave labor was essential. Slaves worked the fields, construction, and production. Various crops were cultivated depending on the region: grains, grapes, olives, vegetables, and fruits. Wine and oil production, key export commodities, were main sources of income. Harvests were carefully stored and processed, with parts shipped to cities and parts sold on markets beyond the empire. The economic success of the estate directly affected the senator's political weight. The wealthier and more efficient his lands, the higher his authority in the Senate and society. Estates also served as places for rest and hosting important meetings with other nobles. Besides agriculture, estates might include artisan workshops and trade posts, providing additional income. Senators could invest in infrastructure development, roads, aqueducts, warehouses, which enhanced the economic and strategic value of their holdings. Thus, land ownership and successful agricultural management formed the foundation of a senator's material well-being and power, enabling him to maintain status, fulfill public obligations, and participate in Rome's political life. Education and upbringing of a senator. The path to power and wisdom. Education in the life of a Roman senator was an inseparable part of his preparation for political and public activity. It encompassed not only literacy and rhetoric, but also a deep understanding of philosophy, law, history, and religion, fields essential for effective governance and maintaining high social status. From early childhood, the senator's son received home education. His tutor, often a pedagogus or grammarian, taught him reading, writing, and basics of Latin. Knowledge of Greek was considered mandatory, as many philosophical and scientific works were written in Greek. Mastery of both languages enabled the future senator to navigate cultural and intellectual spheres with ease. After the initial stage, the boy moved on to rhetoric and philosophy studies. Rhetoric was the cornerstone of political career. Being able to speak beautifully and persuasively before the people and Senate determined success. Rhetoric teachers not only instructed speech techniques, but also developed skills in argument analysis and debate. Philosophy instilled foundations of moral and ethical norms, helping to realize duty to the state and family. Senators often studied Stoicism, a doctrine calling for self-control, courage, and justice, which perfectly matched the ideal of a noble citizen. Significant attention was paid to law study. Knowledge of civil and criminal legislation enabled the senator to make reasoned decisions and perform in courts. Future politicians often apprenticed with experienced jurists and orators, participating in trials and debates. Upbringing also included physical education, gymnastics, horseback riding, fencing, to strengthen body and will. Physical training was seen as a necessary condition for serving the state and warfare. A senator's education was a systematic and prolonged process aimed at forming a harmonious personality capable of governance, wise decision-making, and maintaining dignity in all circumstances. This reflected the link between knowledge, morality, and power that was the foundation of the Roman elite. Thus, literacy, culture, and upbringing were key factors, determining not only political success, but the entire lifestyle of a senator, shaping him as a person worthy of the high mission of serving Rome. Political career of a senator. Stages, challenges, and achievements. The political career of a Roman senator was a complex, multifaceted, and often perilous path requiring not only intellect and talent, but also patience, diplomacy, and the ability to navigate the interests of various social groups. The career followed a set system, the cursus honorum, a sequence of official positions mandatory for attaining higher offices. The career usually began with military service or minor administrative duties. Military service provided experience in leadership, strategic thinking, and earned respect among comrades. This stage was crucial in developing leadership skills and a sense of civic duty. The next step was the position of quaestor, a junior financial officer responsible for the treasury and tax collection. Quaestors could serve in Rome or the provinces, gaining experience in finance management and acquaintance with the imperial administration. After quaestorship, a senator could pursue offices such as aedile, prefect, or praetor, each with distinct roles in maintaining order, judiciary, and organizing public events. Aediles, for example, were responsible for urban infrastructure, markets, games, and festivals, providing opportunities to gain popularity among the people. Attaining the praetorship granted significant judicial and administrative powers, often involving provincial governance or military command. The praetorship was a key step towards higher offices, requiring wisdom and the ability to make difficult decisions. The final and highest office was the consulship, the chief magistrate of Rome with broad powers and influence. Consuls governed state affairs, commanded armies, and presided over Senate sessions. Achieving the consulship symbolized the highest recognition and authority. However, the path to power was fraught with challenges. Political intrigues, rivalries, accusations of corruption or treason could lead to downfall and exile. Senators had to build complex alliances, balance interests of patricians, plebeians, and imperial authority, and consider the influence of military and religious institutions. Beyond official duties, public activity, debating, speaking at forums, patronage of arts and charity played a significant role. These actions strengthened reputation and popularity, essential for career advancement. Thus, a senator's political career was a continuous process of growth, challenges, and achievements, where each step opened new opportunities but demanded mastery in managing people and events. The role and influence of a senator in the religious life of Rome. Religion in ancient Rome was an integral part of public, political, and personal life, with senators holding key positions in maintaining and developing religious traditions. Belief in the gods and adherence to rituals were seen as guarantees of the state's and society's well-being. For a senator, religious duties were not only an expression of faith, but also a means to strengthen power and influence. Senators often became members of religious colleges, priestly corporations that managed cults, temples, and conducted rituals. Among the most important groups were the College of Augurs, responsible for interpreting the will of the gods through observing bird flights, the College of Pontiffs, chief priests regulating the calendar of festivals and rites, and the College of Flamines, dedicated to the worship of specific gods. Membership in these colleges provided senators not only with religious status, but also political influence, as the decisions of priests could affect public opinion and state actions. Senator priests had the right to propose motions in the Senate based on religious observations and predictions. Religious ceremonies involving senators were major state events. They included sacrifices, festive processions, public prayers, and purification rituals. These events reinforced social unity, expressed gratitude to the gods, and requested Rome's protection. Moreover, senators acted as patrons of temples and cults, financing construction and restoration of sanctuaries, organizing festivals and games, which enhanced their popularity and strengthened ties with the population. Religious rites also played a role in legitimizing the authority of senators and emperors, emphasizing their connection with the divine and the city's destiny. Faith in the gods' support gave strength and confidence in political activities and decision-making. Thus, religious life in Rome was inseparable from the political structure, with senators serving as priests and patrons, merging spiritual and secular power, strengthening their societal position, and influencing the course of historical events. The family life of a senator, marriage, children, and legacy family, played a crucial role in the life of a Roman senator, serving as the foundation not only of personal well-being, but also of social status, political influence, and the continuation of the lineage. Marriage was regarded as a strategic alliance aimed at strengthening the family's position in society and ensuring the continuity of power and wealth. The choice of a senator's wife was a carefully considered process involving an analysis of social standing, lineage, political connections, and financial resources. Marriage could become an important political act, forging alliances between influential families, patricians, and powerful plebeian clans. Ideally, the marriage reinforced the family's status, expanded its influence, and secured new resources. A senator's wife typically possessed a high level of education and upbringing to maintain the family's prestige and fulfill the duties of managing the household. Her role included raising children, overseeing domestic affairs, organizing social events, and participating in religious life. Children in a senator's family were seen as the guarantee of the lineage's continuation and wealth inheritance. Special attention was given to raising sons destined for political and military careers, and daughters whose marriages forged family alliances. Multiple generations often lived together in a large household, strengthening family traditions and bonds. Inheritance was a vital aspect of family life. Senators prepared their heirs to manage lands, finances, and political activities, passing not only material wealth, but also knowledge, connections, and experience. Strict legal norms regulated the transfer of property and family status. Family traditions, celebrations, and rituals held great significance, maintaining spiritual and cultural continuity between generations. Ancestors were honored through household cults and family altars, reinforcing a sense of belonging and responsibility. Thus, the senator's family was not only a private unit of society, but also an important institution shaping social and political structures, ensuring the stability and development of the Roman elite. Daily life and routine of a Roman senator, luxury, rituals, and duties. The life of a Roman senator was filled with numerous aspects, reflecting his status, duties, and cultural traditions. The daily routine combined elements of luxury, discipline, and rituality, emphasizing not only personal well-being, but also social standing within Rome's hierarchy. A senator's morning typically began early, often with prayers and rituals before the household altar, the lararium, where the spirits of ancestors and family guardian gods were honored. This was not merely an expression of faith, but a symbol of respect for tradition and strengthening spiritual ties to the family. Breakfast was usually light: bread, olives, cheese, fruits, and a little wine. The main meal, the cena, occurred in the evening and was a lavish event. The feast took place in the atrium or peristyle of the house, surrounded by columns and decorated with mosaics, frescoes, and statues. Tables were set with exquisite dishes: game, fish, various vegetables and fruits, exotic spices, and fine wines. Service and presentation were handled by attentive slaves and musicians, creating a festive atmosphere. The senator's routine included active participation in public life. During the day, he attended the Senate, forums, and court sessions, engaging in debates and decision-making. He might also inspect his lands and provinces, manage finances, and organize public events. The senator's home was a center of culture and hospitality, hosting guests, relatives, allies, artists, philosophers, was obligatory and accompanied by long conversations and exchange of news. These gatherings strengthened social ties and political alliances. Physical activities and leisure held important places: swimming, horseback riding, wrestling, as well as walks in gardens and parks. Physical fitness was considered essential for maintaining health and endurance. Spiritual life involved visiting temples, participating in religious ceremonies and festivals, reinforcing connections with the gods and society. Senators could also act as patrons, funding theaters, schools, and public projects. At night, the house filled with silence and tranquility. The senator rested, preparing for a new day, reflecting on state and family matters, maintaining inner harmony between personal and public life. Thus, the daily life of a Roman senator was a harmonious blend of rituals, duties, luxury, and spirituality, reflecting the unique position of an individual in ancient Roman society. The economic foundations of a senator's wealth: land ownership, slaves, and trade. The economic power of a Roman senator rested on a wide array of income sources, with land ownership occupying a central place. Land holdings were not only a symbol of status, but also a source of substantial income that supported a luxurious lifestyle and political independence. Land ownership included vast estates, villas, located both within the city limits and beyond, in rural areas and provinces. These lands were cultivated by numerous slaves and hired workers. Estates produced a variety of agricultural products: grain, grapes, olives, fruits, as well as livestock, sources of food and raw materials for trade. Slaves formed the backbone of labor on the senator's lands. They performed heavy physical labor as well as specialized tasks, managing the estate, crafts, educating children in the household, accompanying their master. The number of slaves could reach hundreds or even thousands, requiring complex organization and management. A senator's economic activity extended beyond agriculture. Many senators engaged in trade, either directly or through intermediaries. Trade included the export of agricultural products, wine, olive oil, textiles, as well as the import of exotic goods from distant provinces: spices, precious metals, ivory. Financial operations such as lending, investing in construction projects and enterprises were also important components of a senator's economic life. Skillful capital management allowed the expansion of influence and the strengthening of the family's economic base. Tax privileges enjoyed by senators provided additional advantages in income acquisition. They could influence tax collection in the provinces, further contributing to their wealth. A senator's economic power was not only a means of personal well-being, but also a tool of political influence. Money was used to support allies, organize public events, bribe, and gain support in the Senate. Thus, the wealth of a Roman senator was a complex phenomenon closely connected with land, slave labor, trade, and financial operations, creating a solid foundation for his power and status in society. The political career of a senator: the path to power, influence, and responsibility. A Roman senator's political career was an integral part of his life, aimed at serving the state, strengthening his position, and expanding his influence. The path to power required a combination of personal qualities, wealth, connections, and the ability to navigate political games within the complex system of the Roman Republic and Empire. The initial stage often began with lower-level positions: quaestor, aedile, or praetor. These offices served as training grounds, where a young aristocrat gained experience in administration, judicial functions, and public service. The quaestor managed financial affairs. The aedile was responsible for public buildings, games, and street order, while the praetor oversaw judicial proceedings. Subsequently, a senator could aspire to the consulship, the highest magistracy of Rome. The consul was simultaneously the head of the executive power, supreme judge, and military commander. Attaining the consulship signified the pinnacle of a political career and opened doors to significant influence both in Rome and in the provinces. An essential aspect of political activity was the ability to form alliances and maintain clients. A patronage system where the senator provided protection and assistance to his supporters in exchange for their loyalty and backing. Clients could include small landowners, artisans, merchants, and even other politicians. Politics demanded skill in negotiation, manipulation of public opinion, and effective public speaking. Senators spoke in the Senate, forums, and popular assemblies, defending the interests of their factions and families. Their speeches and conduct were carefully scrutinized and could influence the fate of laws and judicial decisions. The senator bore enormous responsibility, not only to the state and society, but also to his ancestors, family, and gods. Mistakes and political failures could lead to loss of status, exile, or even death. During the imperial period, senators' political power changed, but they retained an important role in governance and rituals, supporting the legitimacy of imperial authority. Many senators became provincial governors, military commanders, or held honorary positions. A political career required continuous development, adaptation to changing conditions, and the ability to balance personal ambitions with the interests of the state. This complex process combined tradition, personal charisma, economic power, and a deep understanding of Roman society. Thus, the political life of a senator was a complex, multifaceted, and responsible path that shaped the fate of not only individuals, but the entire Rome. Legacy and fate of a Roman senator. Family memory and influence on the future. The life of a Roman senator concluded not only with an assessment of his personal achievements, but also with the transmission of a legacy that could influence the fate of descendants and society as a whole for many generations. A senator's legacy encompassed not only material wealth, but also social status, political connections, cultural traditions, and moral principles. Family was the main support and continuation of a senator's work. The upbringing of children, especially sons, was based on strict principles of discipline, education, and preparation for public service. Education included literacy, rhetoric, history, law, and military training. The primary goal was to raise worthy heirs, capable of preserving and enhancing the family's influence. Marriage was considered not only a personal union, but also a strategic alliance between families, strengthening political and economic positions. Women in a senator's family played an important role in managing the household, raising children, and maintaining social contacts. Material inheritance included vast landholdings, slaves, jewelry, works of art, and documents confirming the family's rights and merits. The distribution of inheritance often involved complex legal procedures and could cause disputes and conflicts among relatives. Senators sought to preserve their memory through the construction of monuments, temples, tombs, and public buildings dedicated to their achievements and virtues. These structures served not only as city adornments, but also as symbols of the family's eternal glory. A senator's influence on the future manifested through support of culture, education, art, and religion. Many senators became patrons, financing theaters, libraries, schools, and temples, which contributed to the development of public life and the strengthening of moral foundations. Political legacy included the transfer of power and influence to subsequent generations through education, mentorship, and the maintenance of alliances. Family traditions and rituals helped preserve unity and authority. A senator's fate could become an example for descendants, a model of valor, wisdom, and dedication to the state. At the same time, downfall or disgrace in political life could damage not only the individual, but the entire family, erasing memories of achievements. Thus, the legacy of a Roman senator was a complex, multifaceted, and long-lasting phenomenon linking past, present, and future. It reflected the profound values of Roman society and influenced the shaping of Rome's history and culture.